In this particular lecture, we are going to talk about Donald Trump's idea of the Indo-Pacific and America's India conundrum. One of the new dynamics of the gathering geopolitical turbulence in Asia and its water is the growing use of the term Indo-Pacific. During his visit to Asia, the US President Donald Trump has defined the region as Indo-Pacific rather than the customary Asia-Pacific. Concepts of geopolitical space are never static, and Trump's emphasis on the Indo-Pacific underlines the rise of India, China's assertiveness and its expanding footprint in the Indian Ocean, as well as Washington's plans to elevate its strategic partnership with New Delhi by making India as a linchpin of the pivot to Asia policy. It involves America's strategic bet on India's future role in shaping the security architecture in the Eastern Hemisphere. Actively promoted in the recent years by the Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, the Indo-Pacific conception can be traced back to the decision of ASEAN nations to invite India as a founding member of East Asia Summit in 2005. The durability of the Indo-Pacific dynamic, however, will depend essentially on New Delhi's willingness to work with the US and its allies in the region. So in this lecture, we are going to discuss about how the US President Donald Trump, his use of the term Indo-Pacific rather than the more familiar term Asia-Pacific is very important. The Trump administration has embraced it purposefully. There is an idea of a free and open Indo-Pacific. What is that idea about? This lecture is going to talk. And why the Australia is a reluctant partner, whereas Japan seems to be a more than willing partner. Because even the term Indo-Pacific was coined by the Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. Why the growing ties between the democracies in the Indo-Pacific region can be not seen as very benevolently by the rising hegemonic China. Indo-Pacific, how in part it captures a phrase, this particular phrase Indo-Pacific in part captures the importance of India's rise. And the officials, they argue that the America's security and prosperity depends on its maintaining access to this region for a free flow of commerce, and that a free and open Indo-Pacific speaks to that vision. So in this lecture we are going to see, and this lecture will talk about the idea of the Indo-Pacific and the proposition that India must be involved in shaping the Asian balance of power. So here we start this particular lecture. Now, amidst the surge of the geopolitical thinking at the turn of the 20th century, there was one Alfred Mahan. He talked of the region stretching from Asia Minor, that is Turkey, to the Korean Peninsula, emerging as a very decisive theater in the global politics. This decisive theater of the global politics, another German strategist, Karl Haushofer, he spoke of the Indo-Pacific space in the 1920s. The importance of this region during the Second World War was reflected in the Burma-China-India theater, where the British Raj, the nationalist China, and the US, they joined forces to end the Japanese occupation of the Southeast Asia. So we are going to talk in this lecture about how the tensions between the US and China are escalating, and the regional states in the Indo-Pacific, they do not have the luxury of time on their side. It has become incumbent upon them to choose one of the partners. Inclusive openness and ASEAN centrality and unity is what lies at the heart of Indian notion of the Indo-Pacific, because ASEAN unity has also been very fragile, and the Chinese have purchased some countries like Cambodia and Laos. How that has happened, we will also see in this particular lecture. And the China's naval push is leading India and United States to come together, and US-India maritime ties have become a focus. especially in this particular series. And the two pillars which can help the America are Japan and India. And this Japan to India is what we mean by the term Indo-Pacific. Even Americans, they have offered us the 2+2 talks, which were held in New Delhi after India agreed to sign the COMCASA agreement with the US. And it constitutes a very major diplomatic gain for the embattled Trump administration. But we will see also that how India stands to lose the goodwill it enjoys in the Asian region. How India stands to lose? Because New Delhi loves Washington, but Washington only likes New Delhi. This is another very important dimension that we are going to explore in this particular lecture. And this analogy that New Delhi loves Washington, but Washington only likes New Delhi, is what many think tanks they believe of India-US relationship. India and US relationship, they say, has become a boring marriage, spiced by some extramarital affairs of Pakistan and China. And this is how the think tanks and why they say like this, we are going to see in this particular lecture. And then we will see another topic, that the Indian engagement with United States of America, whether in the form of America's Indo-Pacific strategy or the four-nation Quad, also implies that the regional nations pay not only for their supposed strategic upkeep vis-a-vis China, but they also take care of all American strategic interests in this part. There is no denying that the President Trump's actions are mostly in conformity with the script, his own poll manifesto and the public utterances, and irresistible tweets from time to time. How India should read Trump's declaration for the Indo-Pacific as the global policeman, USA, is also a part of this particular lecture that we are going to discuss in the next 35 to 40 minutes. And as Beijing is racing ahead in a quest for a military footprint, Delhi has some catching up to do here. India's response so far has developed along the three axes. One is to counter the potential threats from China's military bases in its immediate neighborhood. Second, to strengthen military partnership with its friends and partners to balance the rise of China. And the third is to emulate Beijing's quest for a foreign military presence. So this all dimensions we are going to explore in this particular lecture. And Mike Pompeo, he said in the first standalone visit to India as a Secretary of State, that we are going to focus on a very ambitious agenda for India-US partnership. Very ambitious agenda. And what that ambitious agenda is, even he went to an extent of saying in a major policy speech that Modi had to mumkin hai. So why US is exhorting India has to be seen in this particular lecture.